Welcome to my risk analysis and management plan of Auckland City Football Club. Auckland City Football Club is a club based in Sandringham, Auckland, formed in 2004 with the inception of the New Zealand Football Championship and is the most decorated football club in Oceania and New Zealand. Risk 1. Injuries to key players. Injuries to key players, especially during the season, can lead to games lost while that player is out of action. The likelihood of key players to have an injury is a medium risk. If a striker scores 30 goals a year is injured, this is a major loss to the team and their attacking threat, which ultimately wins games. This would be a high consequence for Auckland City Football Club if the risk of having a key player injured occurred. Overall, the evaluation of this risk is high because the likelihood of an injury occurring is medium and the consequence of the injury is high. Risk 2. The competition. When the quality of Auckland City Football Club's competition increases, there is a risk to Auckland City Football Club which requires them to improve their quality. The likelihood of Auckland City Football Club's competition increasing is medium-high. The risk of the competition improving for Auckland City FC is that they will fall behind and not qualify for bigger championships. The consequence of this occurring is high. Overall, the evaluation of this risk is high because the likelihood of competition improving is medium-high and the consequence of the risk is high. Risk 3. Changes in the New Zealand football rules. Each year, New Zealand football reassesses the league and the rules around the competition. Foreign player rules that NZF impose on the league would be a risk to Auckland City Football Club as they bring in players from overseas. The likelihood of New Zealand football creating rule changes is high because New Zealand football is looking every year to make the league better and reconstructing things. The consequence to Auckland City Football Club of changes of the NZF rules is a low risk to them. Overall, the evaluation of this risk is medium as Auckland City Football Club must be aware of all rule changes and apply the right plans to succeed. Risk 4. A global pandemic. A global pandemic would be a risk to Auckland City Football Club financially, would impact travel, fixtures, and the health of all the employees and squad. A global pandemic would shut the league down and all the staff and players' health would be a major concern. The likelihood of a global pandemic is a low risk. The consequence of a global pandemic to Auckland City FC is a high risk. Overall, the evaluation of this risk is medium as it is important to have the right planning in place if this was to happen. For risk 1, the steps of a plan to treat, minimize, or to achieve acceptable risk levels and ways to monitor and review where injuries are tracked, monitored, and reviewed on an ongoing basis. The first step is to identify the risk. Secondly, we analyze the risk. Thirdly, we evaluate and rank this risk. The fourth step we must take is to treat the injuries by having the appropriate staff, physios, doctors, and to have depth in the squad to replace players who are injured. Lastly, monitor and review the risks to keep track of injuries and monitor playing minutes, training time, and intensity. For risk 2, the steps of a plan to treat, minimize, or to achieve acceptable risk levels and ways to monitor and review where competitors are being tracked, monitored, and reviewed on an ongoing basis. The first 3 steps that we take are the same as risk 1. The fourth step that we must take is to treat the risk by improving our training systems, squad, and equipment, seeing what our competition is doing, and improve on what we are doing. Lastly, monitor and review the risks to keep track of our competition and monitor our own recruitment strategies and training practices. For risk 3, the steps of a plan to treat, minimize, or to achieve acceptable risk levels and ways to monitor and reviews where changes to New Zealand football rules are being tracked, monitored, and reviewed on an ongoing basis. The first 3 steps we take are the same as risk 1 and risk 2. The fourth step we must take is to treat the risk by clearly knowing the rules and to make the appropriate steps to be in line with rules while creating a successful team. Lastly, monitor and review the risks to keep track of new rule changes being implemented and monitoring the way we are applying the new rules and building our squads. For risk 4, we take the first 3 steps taken in risk 1, 2, and 3. The fourth step we must take is to treat the risk by clearly knowing what steps we have to take to help to keep all our players and staff protected. Lastly, monitor and review the risks to keep track of current rules and regulations regarding pandemics and monitor health and safety practices within the organization. In the previous assessment I've done, the pestle and internal environment analysis, along with this risk management plan, I can see a clearer picture of the organization. I now understand that all these three aspects must be considered to have a complete picture of the organization to help Auckland City Football Club to improve their performances and get the best overall outcomes. In this slide, I present the summary of the risk management plan. Thank you for listening.